You were the chosen one, Streaking Grime. You were meant to bring beauty to my miniatures, not leave them destroyed.
I hate you!
Welcome back to Lizard of Doom. I am Max. This video was meant to be last week's video, but it's taken me an extra week to fix it, and I had to make last week's video in one day. So this one has been a lot of effort. So tick on my like because it turns me on, and because this was a lot of effort. And also, hit subscribe. I'm nearing 10k. If this is your first video, have a little watch. If you like it, go and join the club. This video was meant to be a video about Army Painter Triad system. I'd already sprayed these in a bone colour when I did my Anakin, but I wanted to paint them white. I started with the lowest shark white of the Army Painter Triad system and gave it a new base coat with this kind of off-white grey colour rather than this yellowy white bone colour that I'd sprayed them with in the first place. This was okay. It was a start for white. I will show you a better way later in the video after these models are destroyed by evil Streaking Grime. Yeah, you can see it's kind of like a bluey, greeny, off-white, grey shark colour. I get why it's called shark white. This is what that colour looks like, and it's the base of the Triad system. The next one up is Yeti White. This is less of a bluey grey white, and it's moving more towards a pure white. You can see I sprayed it from above, so these models have a darker shark white undertone to them, and then every angle from above, at kind of like a 45-degree angle, has been caught with that Yeti White. I think it's more noticeable on the back where they've got these little backpack USB ports that catch the light a bit better on top. The next is kind of a pure white. This was the final step, sprayed just from above. Bright white boys on the top, shark white on the bottom, and again their little backpack thingamy jigs really catch this light and show off kind of how this works. This is what this video was meant to be about. The smoothness of the Triad system. You can see that, yeah, it works. Was it enough for a video? Maybe, maybe not. But this video took a turn. After this, I used contrast paint to do all the markings, and this was very fiddly, especially on Captain Rex. He has fiddly little designs on him. Now, I couldn't film this bit without my fat head getting in the way of the camera because I had to hold it really close up like this, and that's not easy to film on your own, so cut to the next bit. I'd also done all the black areas with contrast paint. I'd found this kind of difficult to do. I thought contrast paint would be easier to control in these crevices, but the liquidy nature of it actually made it harder for me to place it exactly where I wanted it, and it ended up a little bit messy for my liking. But it's okay, passable. I then edge highlighted all of the black areas with a grey to make them look a little bit like they've caught the sun on the edges, but not lighten them too much. I also edge highlighted the blues with a lighter blue, and then picked out edges of white just to make them a little bit more crisp. I did look up the markings for all these troopers on the internet because of course there's a catalogue of who's got what marking, and I made them correct to the animated series. I chipped all of the areas on the armour where I'd done blue markings with white as well to make it look worn and kind of battle damaged. This was okay. I wasn't happy. I found it too neat and regimented. I wish I had done this in a way that was a bit more random, say sponging or dry brushing, something that I wasn't completely in control of because I made it too almost perfectly placed. I also put little metallic chips on the gun to give you the impression that the black paint had chipped off the gun. And I wasn't too happy with this either. There's no metals anywhere else on these specific Clone Trooper miniatures, so it kind of looked out of place. After that, a coat of hard coat, because these boys need to get dirty. Being what's called a shiny is an insult in Clone Trooper culture. You do not want to be a shiny. Those are the newbies. You want to be a hardened battle veteran, and all of the 501st Legion are quite often very grubby in the Clone series. So I needed to dirty up Captain Rex and his boys, and I was going to do this with my old friend Streaking Grime. Little did I know he would betray me. I have used Streaking Grime before. If you've seen my big snail video, there was a lot of Streaking Grime on there. I've used it on my knights, all two of them done so far, and more to come. And this is the first time it's ever acted like this. Same damn techniques, same way of putting it on, taking it off. I don't know what's about to happen here, but it is the lowest point I have had for a while in miniatures painting. I slapped it on all over these boys. The hard coat should make it easy to wipe back off, I thought. This is going to be a piece of cake. Nice grubby troopers. These boys ain't shinies, but I was wrong. When I came to take it back off, I noticed that the armour had become yellowed. This had not happened before. The Streaking Grime had not affected the colour of something underneath before, but I continued to remove, thinking maybe I can clean it, maybe I can get through this. But the more I cleaned and the more I scrubbed, I started to get through and take paint off. Spirits shouldn't take paint off like this. Acrylic shouldn't be affected. Maybe it was the spray paint, I used a Colourforge spray paint, or maybe the Streaking Grime had gone bad. I have no idea. So this is where I'm at now. It's nearly midnight and I was hoping I was almost done with this video, but you can see under his arm there, all the paint's been stripped off. The bottom of those pouches on his chest, paint's gone, there's little bits like that all over. And all the armour is now completely yellowed. Like the white is no longer white. I've never had this happen. I was feeling pretty low. I hadn't been this kind of sad about something I'd painted for a very long time, but it wasn't all negative. This is an opportunity to buy more miniatures. I went out and bought these, an expansion box for my Anakin and boys, good Anakin and more boys. This isn't the opportunity I was actually talking about. There were some things along the way that I wasn't 100% happy with. Now this is my chance to redo them. So I stuck them in isopropyl alcohol overnight and the paint just slipped off by the morning. And now, take 2. Action! This time I undercoated them with a standard Mechanicus grey spray from Games Workshop. And then when I went in with the airbrush, I made sure not to hit from underneath, giving more definition to all of the armour. This is what the Army Painter Triad was missing. It was not dark enough in the recesses. Maybe it's designed to use shades and stuff with, but that's not how they sell it. After this, I then filled in all of the black and blue areas with actual paint rather than contrast paint. This gave me more control over where everything was going, and I was left with something I was happier with. It was all much, much neater. I edge highlighted the black differently as well, using these 2 different off blue colours rather than grey and metallic. This gives it a nice kind of read of black with a little bit of damage and highlighting without distracting with metallics. Just picking out the little high points with that very blue colour. And also, this would be the blue I would edge highlight the blue armour markings with as well. This ties everything together, gives it a nice coherent feeling. These blue armour markings are a pain in the butt, even when they're sculpted in. The ones on Captain Rex's forehead here are sculpted in, and it was actually harder for me to hit them than freehand them. I found it easier to freehand with actual normal acrylic paint than to fill them in with contrast paint. Once I was done, these boys were looking so much better than they were before. I am much happier with these second time round. By this point, they were looking pretty good. I was pretty happy. I was happier with these versions more than I was the versions I'd done before. They look too clean though, so it's time to dirty them up without using Streaking Grime. I'm going to be using an absolute classic of the hobby. You all know him, you have all used him. It's Nuln Oil. An absolute classic. My first models were coated in this, but I'm not using that in this way this time. I will be thinning this down very, very thin. This will be a kind of like a layer of grime rather than a complete shade. I am doing this more of a classic way than using Streaking Grime, which hasn't been in the hobby for that long, only a couple of years really at most. Once I have a nice, very thin consistency, I test it on a model, but not actually on the armour of the model. These rocks down here have caught all the highlights with the airbrush, the same as the armour has, so they're the perfect testing zone as I'll be painting over them in a bit. With shade this thin, it sticks really well in all the recesses and just kind of floods off all the other areas. This is what I wanted. It's going to give it an all over kind of greying down, but also darken those recesses more. Grubby and more picked out. This is exactly what I want. Look at the difference between that rock and this rock. That's what I want on my armour. So then what did I do? I slapped it all over my armour. Captain Rex was the first one. I always pick a character first. Probably not wise. Probably should go with one of the background chodes rather than the main guy themselves. But hey, that's me. I get too excited and I pick up the shiny character and do him first. But this was working. This was working quite well. The next technique is something I would usually consider to be a bad thing. A dry, scratchy, chalky dry brush. Now hear me out. This is to create micro dents and scratches on this armour, so this technique we normally see as bad may just have its place. The way this was done was with a very dry, quite stiff dry brush. This meant that there wasn't much moisture in the brush to kind of spread that paint around and thin it, and the kind of sharp bristles add more scratchiness to it. Usually we would consider this bad, but it's just what I needed to ding up the edges of this armour panelling and kind of put those micro scratches on that blue armour. You can see it worked quite well. Is this good? Leave a comment, let me know if you think this worked or it should be left in the toolbox, not used. I think this works, and you can really see it on some of the other miniatures that I've done this to. Obi-Wan himself wasn't safe. His armour is now looking kind of textured and dinged up around the edges, especially on the back. You can see it on his kind of back armour there in the middle. That panelling is really caught on the edge there. And the forearm lumps in his armour, those little raised bits have caught all the kind of scratchiness as well. I think a really nice example is the blue on the back of this guy. You can see where it looks like the paint has rubbed off on his armour and been left with this kind of grazed look, and the shin there as well at the top by the knee. I think this has worked. So my question to you now, is there such a thing as a bad painting technique for miniatures, or does everything have its place in this hobby? I started to colour in the metallics on the base with Pro Acryl Dark Silver, and then I realised I hadn't painted Obi-Wan. So I had a nice evening, off camera, relaxing, no pressure, and painted him up ready for the next day. Hello there. I think I've done a better job on him than Anakin. It's just a shame I didn't film this one and I filmed Anakin. Oh well. I think the lightsaber glow effect on his face has come off really nicely, and I'm really happy with how this has turned out, and I'm super happy with this project overall. I then based the outside bits of these bases with Rhinox hide. This didn't have to be neat. It wasn't going to be seen very well in the end. It was just so there was a dark kind of base colour to work with, because I was going to be using one of Games Workshop technical paints. First it needs an Ard coat to help this paint work, because a gloss surface really helps this technical paint work. The paint I'm going to be using is Martian Iron Earth. This is one of the crackling effect paints, and I'm going for a Genosis kind of basing scheme with these guys. If you saw last week's video, all of that terrain was kind of red deserty, and I want everything to match, obviously. My guys are going to look good on my board with the terrain, a nice consistent theme to the miniatures. This paint, as it dries, as I said, cracks apart. You can actually watch it in front of your own eyes. It does take a little bit of time. This is very sped up footage, and it is magic. Boom, look at it go. With the desert ready, some of that Rhinox hide that was meant to be visible underneath had kind of cracked away and left little white gaps, but I was about to cover that with the next step. That being a shade of Reichland Flesh Shade. This is kind of an orangey brown colour, fantastic for this, as the orange colour will really bring out that red desert vibe, but the brown part of it will make it nice and dark and dirty. This not only went over all of the desert areas, it also went over all of the metal areas quite thickly. I wanted to make sure this was kind of like dirt that had blown inside this hangar or whatever these guys are standing in, to make these guys' bases all look coherent and like they're all in the same place. After this had dried, I moved on to highlighting the metal. I did this by sponging in some of the dark silver, giving it kind of a chipped, worn look, and bringing out little bits more like the edges of all the panels and stuff like that. That's where I kind of aimed for, just to give it a little bit of shine back. After that, I came in with some silver from Procreate. Now this is very bright and it looks a little bit much, but these bases are going to get kind of brought down in the coming stages. They are not going to be this bright when I'm done with them, so I need the brightness now so I can do that step then. This looks okay, but it still needs work. This hobby is about kind of patience and consistency and building up different techniques to reach your end goal. I dry brushed a little bit of Sylvaneth bark over the edges of all this crackling effect, just to pick them out a bit. It gives it a nice kind of dirty, dusty feel, but it's not orange enough yet. That last step with the dry brush may have been a bit pointless. I don't really know if you can see it in the end result, but let me teach you something about pigment powders. Dark red ochre from Vallejo was going to be my pigment powder of choice. First, I put down this piece of paper. I've made a massive mess in the past, and this tip is about helping restrict that mess. I picked my victim. This guy, Commander Cody, was going to be the guy to test it on. You tap a little bit out on this sheet and then stipple your brush in so you've got a nice little blob on the end of a very soft brush. Smash it all over the base, just catch his shins and kind of up the back of his calves. I don't want to kind of coat him in this because this is as orange as Dorito dust. This will stain your miniature, but look at that. He is now tied to his base. The whole base is orange desert. Dusty winds have blown the sands inside this hangar, and he's perfectly weathered. Literally 20 seconds of doing this. Make sure you kind of brush it back off and tap off any excess, because you don't want that falling off on game day and getting on other people's miniatures. The tip is to use this piece of paper, because after you're done, you can fold it back up. You haven't got any mess on your desk there, and once you fold it back up, you can funnel it back into the tub. I have used this before on the channel and made a massive mess, and I just missed the pop then, which is really annoying, but a good example of how hard it can be to get off your desk if you don't do this. This tiny amount here, I try and brush it away lightly, it just smears. That will be orange forever until I splash some other paint over the top of it. And also your hands. Clean your hands after using this, otherwise you will be getting this colour all over the rest of your miniature. Spiky beige tufts from Gamer Grass were my foliage of choice for this. They look dry and deserty, and I was very excited to use them as I hadn't used them before. I kind of picked the smaller ones as they do come in large clumps on this sheet, and yeah, there we go. Dry desert plants. I made sure everything was kind of pointing in the right direction, and there are some little stragglers you need to get off these as you separate them from each other on the sheet, just to make them look good. Everyone who was outside did get one of these plants, just so it didn't look kind of inconsistent, just one guy with a plant. And yet, a little bit more to do tidying them up there. But overall, happy with these tufts. I think these are a good choice for desert plants, the beige spiky tufts from Gamer Grass. Now let's have a look at how they've all turned out. I am very happy with these miniatures. I split the core box with my friends and we each got one squad each. I got Anakin and the troopers, but you need 2 squads to play the game. I have expanded into Obi-Wan, obviously to go with Anakin. They are the classic duo. And now I'm ready for a game. You can see paired with the terrain, these are mwah, chef's kiss. Good job, me. I am having a game with these on Friday, the day this video comes out, so when you're watching this, I may just be using these models on the tabletop. I'll be fighting against Asajj Ventress and General Grievous with their army of B1 and B2 battle droids. Bring it on, clankers. You ain't got nothing on these boys. They've already been through hell and back. So Thank you very much to my lovely Patreons. You saw them over the opening shots of those reveal shots, and you can join them up here. Shlabam. I am nearing 10,000 subscribers. I'm about to hit 8k very soon. So if you could help a boy out, not just any boy, ya boy, and hit that subscribe button and join me next week when I bring you something else interesting, I hope. Another little point before I go is something exciting. Atomic Mass Games, the people who make these Star Wars Shatterpoint miniatures, have seen the channel, and now your boy is on their press list. So I have received something early that I can't post on here and make a video about until September the 13th. So mark that date in your diary. Something new from Atomic Mass Games is coming on this channel then. You best believe I'm going to have it ready early. So I'm going to be one of the first with whatever that product is. If you do a bit of Googling, you could probably find out what it is. That is all for now. Remember, it's not a pile of shame, it's a pile of future fun. See you next time.